Hi, friends. It's Lisa Hetrick, illustrator for Gina K Designs, and I'm so grateful you could join me today. I am super excited to share part 3 of my pattern background series. And if you've watched 1 and 2, yay! I'm happy that you're here with me for part 3. And you can see the links to part 1 and 2 down in the link in the description below. And I'll also add them to the cards up in the upper right hand corner of this video. So if you have joined me for the other 2 videos, you've seen these samples that I have shared, but the whole intention of this pattern series is to talk to you about how you can use your stamps to create different kinds of patterned backgrounds for your card fronts to create extra texture and dimension without creating height to your card. And there's so many different things that you can do. It's one of my favorite techniques and it's super simple, and I use it every time, almost every time I go to create a card, because I just want the stamps to be the star of the card show. So let's go ahead and talk about the supplies. So I have some Gina K Designs layering white cardstock cut to 4¼ by 5½, and I have a sampling of my stamps in the Gina K Designs collection. All of the links to all of the supplies will be listed down below, but I've selected some stamps with a mix of line art images and solid images. I'm using all Gina K Designs inks, and the key to this strategy here is I'm using inks that are light to dark. So let's go ahead and dive in and let's talk about the design, creating pattern papers and thinking about it from a design perspective. So when I approach a card project, I'm always thinking about how I might want to create a pattern within the card base. And I create patterns by thinking in threes and thinking about creating the stamped images in a cluster of threes. So it essentially creates that visual triangle. Now, each time I do this technique, the results are different. The technique stays the same, but I change up the variables, whether it be the stamps or the colors of the inks. And that's what makes this technique so super simple and easy to replicate over and over and over again. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm using the Count It All Joy stamp set, and I want to use some of the leafery elements to create kind of a wave look and feel. Now, this leaf element that's in this stamp set, and again, I'm using one stamp from the stamp set for this particular pattern. But what we're going to do is change up all of the colors that we're using and let them overlap. And I'm going to show you how to connect the stamp to itself to create that elongated pattern. So I've got some passionate pink, innocent pink, some sweet mango, and some wild dandelion. And again, the links for all the supplies will be listed below. Now, you could do this horizontally or vertically. It's totally up to you. But I'm just going to go ahead and dive in and get started with creating this pattern. And I'm working from the lower right-hand corner on this. So my cluster concept is a little bit different with this pattern. I'm not actually creating clusters at all. I'm creating vertical lines, and I'm changing up the colors and nesting the stamp into itself to create that visual movement up and down the card to create the pattern background. So I've used innocent pink, and then I've used passionate pink. Now I've gone back to innocent pink, and you can see that I'm nesting that stamp with the leafery right on the top there, and I'm just gave it a little bit of a turn so I could get a little bit of movement with this stamp. So you can see that the leafery is kind of moving a little bit. Now, this time I've turned my entire card front all the way around, and I'm going to start to create this same pattern, but from the opposite direction. And then I'm going to bring that leafery in a little closer to what I've already stamped to let those colors overlap each other. So I'm using wild dandelion, and I've just let it nest right up against the leafery that I did in the innocent pink. And I've got sweet mango here, so I'm just going to line that stamp up with the leafery underneath, and I'm starting to get a lot of variation of color because I've got some overlapping between the colors, and B, I'm getting a lot of movement happening on this card simply by starting from the bottom first and working my way up, turning the card around and working from the top down. And I want to be sure to just create a little bit of those leafery elements off the edge. So I've went ahead and did that on that second row. Now I'm going to go back to that first row and ink it up with some of that passionate pink and just get a little bit of a glimpse of that leafery just growing right off of the top. Now, I am focused on keeping this pattern within the confines of the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 because you may want to run it through your die cutter with any of the master layouts dies, or you may want to trim it down and let that leafery kind of go off the edge a little bit. But I'm using all of the space that I have available. So my first 2 rows, one went up, the other went down. Now I'm going to go back from the bottom up and repeat what I did. But this time I'm starting with that passionate pink. You can see that I'm just kind of nesting it in there and just kind of seeing if I want to give it a little bit of a turn to the left. I'm trying to create some movement in this pattern, but without creating these wild kind of loop-de-loops. I'm just trying to keep kind of a straight row. And because I'm doing that, you can see that the stamp inks from row to row are overlapping each other. And that's the beautiful thing about the Gina K inks. When they overlap each other, they work a lot like watercolor because they're very transparent, so you can see the colors that you've stamped before kind of coming through, and I just love that. So I've got 3 rows going here. Now, as far as this pattern goes, you could stop here and do some sentiments and do some other things, but we're going to keep moving because I want to fill up the entire card front here with this pattern. So I'm going to turn my card front all the way around again, and I'm going to start with my sweet mango from the bottom and work my way up into another row. So this is a very different way to create your patterns than what I've shared with the clusters of 3s. This time we're really working with the stamp, and this stamp works great for that. So any of the leafery kind of elements in my stamp sets, and I have a lot of different leafery elements, would work great for this kind of technique because you can layer them together. So you can see that I'm layering this silhouette image, and I'm trying to be a little tighter, so close, and really create that line and that movement, but really let the stamps and the layering of the colors kind of make your eye visually see that you've got a lot of layers here. So there are some colors that might appear to you like they're coming forward towards you a little bit more than some of the lighter colors. But this bold look and the fact that these colors are the 2 pinks are a light and a dark, and we've got the yellow and we have the mango. They're very, very complementary to each other. So working with them in this way kind of creates a little extra secret sauce kind of fun. Okay, so I'm going to work from the bottom here, and you can see me kind of tilting that stamp a little bit more to the left just to get a little bit more movement. My the stamps have kind of, the way I've stamped them out, it's kind of worked like a leafery wave going up and down. So I'm just kind of playing with that motion that's going to also create some really interesting effects for your card base. You could do this technique and just add a sentiment and champal, you would be done. Because that's all you need, because this one stamp in the stamp set is literally the star of the show, creating this whole pattern in the background here. And I just love it. I love these colors. I love the ability to layer them together to create different looks, to create extra texture and dimension with the colors and creating that movement. Now you can see in this card how I kind of went a little more exaggerated with how I used the stamp to create that movement. Where in this card, we've just got color and layers and working in rows to create this pattern. And I just love it. Okay, so far we've gone through 3 different kinds of patterns using the same technique, but getting very, very different results. And I just love it. I hope you have enjoyed everything that I've shared so far. So here's another peek at all of the patterns that I've created using this similar technique. And in number 4, we will be focusing on that bottom right one, and I'm going to teach you how to create that pattern. So head over to my website at indigojadeart.com/craftyourjoy and grab all of my stamp set freebies. Thanks so much for watching. Please consider sharing the joy by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. And I'm sharing more card and watercolor tutorial videos for your inspiration right here. So come on in and take a peek at my tutorials. I have a lot to share, and I'll see you next time.